Roland Kwemain, thank you so much for accepting to be guest on our program.
Look, Kingsley, thank you. It's a pleasure. And again, every time I have the opportunity to express my views, every time I have the opportunity to also create an impact, which is a bit my philosophy, the impact of one, I don't miss the opportunity.
You're a very busy man. It wasn't, I must confess, it wasn't easy getting you to talk to us. You're always in the air, traveling.
Yeah, I have to. You know, in 2010, when they asked my son, William, what is your father doing? You know, he was 6 years old. He said his father is traveling. And people laugh as you are laughing. But he said his father is traveling, changing the world. So I think, yes, I travel a lot. But I'm not a tourist. I travel for leadership seminars. I travel for corporate social responsibility event. I travel for also empowering young people. I travel as much as possible to change the world with the small means that God has given to me.
Before we dive into great business, what is the driving force behind your path?
I think it's faith in God. When you have discovered your mission, things become so easy. I've done so far more than 19 countries. I mean, traveling around the world more, I think 19 plus. But again, many people ask me, how do you do it? Because I'm very active on social media. I try, you know, human being, we have many dimensions. If you take Roland Kwemain as a parent, I do my best to be a responsible parent. As a husband, I do my best. As a citizen, I think I do my best as a citizen. Now as an entrepreneur, you know, I do my best. As a spiritual being, I do my best. So when you try to divide all these different aspects of human being, you see where you can create more impact. So it's more being organized. I think the secret is more being organized and knowing what are the priorities. So I think, but again, it's faith in God and faith in others.
You've traveled to over 70 countries around the world.
Yes.
When you look at leadership in those countries you have gone to and leadership back in Africa,
Yes.
what can you make of it? What is it not right with leadership in Africa?
I think, as you said, I had the opportunity to meet like the Dalai Lama in Osaka in Japan in 2010. And I also asked the question, you know, sometimes as leaders,
because Africa is rich, but you find we're still very poor, you have youths, unemployment is very high. So what is it that is wrong with leadership in Africa?
The African paradox. Rich in terms of natural resources, but very poor in terms of development. I think we have a deficit of good leadership. What I've called transformational leadership or impactful leadership. Now, because if you look at our African leaders, let me clearly, Kingsley, define again, not even define, who is a leader? Because if you ask the question to the common man, they will tell you a president, a minister, a mayor, a general manager. Because in Africa, we have the wrong definition of who is a leader, we're on the wrong way. A leader is someone who influences, motivates, inspires, and is at the service of others. So leadership has nothing to do with position and titles. But if you look on our continent, and I'm proud African, very proud of my roots, but let me be honest to confess.
In your work,
yes,
great work you've been doing.
So the issue is that we have poor leadership. I have to be honest to you.
Where does the problem lie? Is it with the educational system or political will?
Educational system, you have touched it. Now, I would say it's a whole mindset that we need, because look how we were educated by the colonial masters. We shouldn't forget that few years ago we were still under colonialism. And you will see when they were training those who were going to like replace the colonial masters, they did something very strategical. They worked a lot on the mindset. You look very well that we are very bold and proud to say, I studied in UK, I studied in France, I studied in America. Look at our references. They are not African references. So That's number one, the educational system. Number two is that we have not quickly understood that we should focus more on what unites us than what divides us. We are too divided in Africa. If you take any African country, tribalism is a big issue. I mean, people are defined more by their tribe. So it is so difficult to go beyond. You know, they'll always try to drag you, even when you don't want. You know, they will drag you. If Kingsley is an amazing and outstanding journalist, I should be proud that he's from Cameroon. But it will not end there. He's from Northwest. He's from this village. I mean, what I call in French, le plus petit dénominateur commun. I mean, they look for the most smallest element that will divide us, not what unites us. That's number two. Number three is that the African continent and the educational system trains us to compete with others. It's too competitive, not collaborative. But we have seen, and this now is the leadership coach speaking, that corporate organization and any organization, we are here, people watch at you on television, but people should bear in mind that they are technicians. That if they decided to frustrate this program, you agree with me that it's going to be a mess. So teamwork is something that is missing in more and more in Africa. So whereas in the gene and the DNA of African, we are more a solidarity continent, but more and more we are very individualistic. So I think we should come back to our roots in terms of generosity, our values, in terms of solidarity, in terms of consensus and not concession or not compromise.
Roland Kwemain, you spend time talking to young people around the world, most especially in Africa.
Yes.
And you know that in Africa, unemployment is high. Most of these youths, they cannot even afford a meal for themselves.
Yes.
How do you achieve your goal by talking to people with empty stomachs?
That's why I think the salvation for Africa is entrepreneurship. And unfortunately, if you look at the ecosystem of our African countries, we don't really promote entrepreneurship. There are some speeches, but again, you cannot really see the foundation. Now, I've been talking to young people and I've been challenged. I remember in one of the cities, I don't know where precisely, I gave a talk, a training for 2 days, and one of them was so honest to tell me at the end that he wanted to see me off. And he told me, look, Mr. Roland, for the past 2 days, you have really empowered us on entrepreneurship and all the benefit why they should become entrepreneur, because upon graduation they might not find a job because of the system, I mean the ecosystem. But they told me, but when they look at their neighborhood, their immediate neighborhood, those who have money are civil servants. And this was a young guy, they were all in terminal upper seat, so 15, 16 years. I was quite challenged because this is someone is talking about facts, he's not talking about theory. But I had to go deep and telling him that, look, in the 80s, there were some African countries that was the most corrupt country in the world. Today, those countries are one of the best in terms of governance. Now, it takes few people when the political leadership is at the right direction with a strong vision, then people are there. But it's important for these young people not to get discouraged, because I can't encourage them to continue being discouraged, because we can spend 40 days, we don't eat, we don't die. We can spend even more than 25 to 30 minutes in the water, we don't breathe, we don't die. But we cannot spend 1 second without hope. So I'm sorry to tell you that leaders and transformational leaders are dealers of hope.
There is so much hostilities in the air, so much quarrels everywhere in the world. In Europe, in America, in Africa, in Cameroon. So, as somebody who is driven by leadership, what advice can you give the young people concerning, because most of the things that we have around are being championed by the youth.
True.
So what advice are you giving to young people?
I would tell the young people that it is so important for them to defend their right, to speak their mind, that their voices should be heard. It's so normal. But I would strongly advise that we should work more for peaceful and positive change. Those are the two foundations of any change that we want to drive as a society. If not, if it is, because we don't need to destroy everything to build. But also, it is important to see that violence will lead to revolutions. And most of the time, when there are revolutions, if we look at the history of humanity, you will see that at the end, the people that work hard for it are not really those who are enjoying it. It's still turn around. So I will strongly recommend that in terms of citizenship, for instance, if every young person on the continent at the age of voting could have his voter card registered. That's
Many
one.
will tell you that their votes will not count.
I will also tell them that they have not first registered. Look, I'm 48 years old. We are the generation of the 1990s, when everything started. We defended our right. We will say, okay, we didn't achieve the change that we dreamed. But if you look very well, because at a certain time, there was some element of discouragement. Now, if you look at also on the African continent, there are countries where there have been a lot of alternatives. You take Benin, you take Senegal, you take Ghana. So we cannot say everything is bad on the African continent. I want to be very clear. As someone, because leaders are those who are very positive in terms of thinking, in their speech and even in their action. I cannot allow Kingsley that will sit here and say everything is bad. I will continue to have hope, and I want to look at some African countries where things are better. And believe me, there are some African countries. If you take East, you take West. Now, we have challenges in Central Africa, but we also have the story of DRC, where you can see what happened, although there are still some challenges. So I would strongly recommend to young people that they should really work hard in terms of citizenship for me. The solution is citizenship. Asking yourself, what can I do for my community? How can I make sure that my community is better? What can be my own contribution in making sure that there's peace, that there's development? What can be my own contribution in making sure that there's no more tribalism, there's no more corruption? That's what we call the impact of one. The capacity of each and every one of us to create positive change.
I have a book here titled The Impact of One, which is your recent publication.
Yes.
I want you to tell the viewers what this book is all about.
It is an autobiography. In 2010, I had the wonderful opportunity to be JCI World President. Junior Chamber International is a worldwide organization of young leaders and entrepreneurs between the ages of 18 to 40. We're in more than 100 countries in the world, 200,000 members, and more than...
what do you people do exactly?
We empower young people to develop 4 skills: leadership, entrepreneurship, social responsibility, and fellowship. We strongly believe that if the young people between the age of 18 to 40, they have these skills, they will become true change agents. So that's the mission of the organization. It was founded in 1918 in St. Louis, Missouri, by a young guy called Henry Kissinger, an American citizen. Today it's a global organization, and I had the opportunity in 2010 to be the world president of that organization.
No, okay, let's continue with the book, like I did that a moment ago. So you tell us what this book is all about.
It is part of the story where I had to give my own story in terms of contribution, my humble background. I mean, born in Yaoundé, grew in Douala, Cameroon. After growing Mutengene, where my father was transferred there in the police school.
So you are Francophone?
I'm Francophone.
I'm just discovering. I never even... When I hear you speak, one will have the impression that you are an Anglophone.
Because that's the blessing of this beautiful country. When I went to Mutengene, then went to Lycée Bilingue, Boya, Bilingual Grammar School, and then took advantage of the bicultural nature of my country. It was a blessing. I speak Pidgin, English so well. I did my Catholic education in Pidgin, because in Mutengene, where I had my first Holy Communion and all the rest. So I think I take all this as a blessing. Then from there, I joined JCI and then had this opportunity. So I wanted...
Where did the inspiration come from you to write this book?
It was more the membership. My speeches were very, very inspirational. I spoke from my heart as JCI president. I was not reading, because a JCI president in all his trip has to address the government, the corporate world, and the civil society. So most of the time I was very, very happy meeting young people in the universities, all in my trips. So they were very inspired and very happy. I mean, listening to me, and they gave me the feedback. And many started telling me, Mr. President, why don't you write a book? You know, seeing some of the speeches I couldn't give at the end. It was not like, give me your speech. I didn't have a speech, a written speech. Then from there, the idea came, and I started documentary. The element, my trips, the anecdote, who I met, I will write down. President Mugabe, when I finish an audience, I write the Pope Benedict XVI. You know, this head of state leader. I put all that down, what the jokes, the anecdote. Then at the end, with my team, we came out with the book, and we didn't want it to be a JCI book, but it should be a book of inspiration and motivation, that at the end, you shouldn't mind about where you come from, the humble beginning. Don't focus on that. I also tell the challenges I had, because it's not just, everything was not as good as you can see. May think. So I had challenges. For instance, my 3 kids were born and I was never present because of JCI. In 2004, the first son came. I was very active in the JCI Cameroon activity because I was communication director at that level. And when we were there, my wife gave birth. Our daughter was born. I was in Japan, the Leadership Academy, and she came 1 month before. Then my son, the last born.
So all these things inspired you?
Inspired. So I can say, we look at leaders and just look at privilege, advantages. But they are, for me, as my late father keep insisting, leadership is all about responsibility. And this can lead to bring me back to the first part of our conversation where you said, you know, when we don't define leadership all about, if we think it's prestige, then we are getting wrong. You are like a slave because you are at the service of the organization where you were elected or you have called to serve. So, and by the way, my role model in terms of leadership is Jesus Christ. I keep saying that because we are there to serve and not to be served.
What has been the response after publishing this book? For those who've read the book, what response have you got from people who have read the book?
Beyond my expectations. Beyond. You can go to the different Roland Kwemain pages, you see the feedback, they are not hiding it. The conferences, I remember in Yaoundé, the other day there were 3,500 people in Palais de Sport. Incredible. So, I mean, beyond my expectations. But this is also pushing me to go to the next level. That's why by the end of this year, there will be the next book. Now, this book will be focusing essentially on action steps, because the first book is more on motivation. When you read it, you're like, wow, so I can make it. Because people should not just say, Roland, you know, now I'm called to be interviewed. They are calling all over. But it took more than 2 decades of hard work, of decision.
What has been your relationship with some of the leaders you've had the opportunity to meet? When you meet these leaders, what do you tell them?
No, I have to be very honest to you. I will not say everything we discuss there, but let me tell you, you praise in public and you criticize in private. This is a leadership or a motivational tips that I give to all my clients that I try to coach. So let me tell you, even our children, we have to be very careful, not because you're a child, that you will beat him in front of all the, you know, he will behave differently. If you call him and you are 2 of you, you talk to him, his reaction and his capacity to absorb and to really listen to you is very high. Then you try to like disgrace him. So that's why I will tell you there are many conversations. What we had, I was very tough. I can tell you I was very tough, but try as much as possible to be very polite, because don't forget I'm African and we have what we call the droit de naissance. It's so important to know that we respect our parents, because in the Bible, in the Quran, and even in the African religion, a child cannot curse his parent, but the parent can curse his child. So we should still respect our parents. They might do wrong things, we respect them, but the way to correct them is different. So when I've been having this conversation, especially with the African leaders. I expressed our frustration at that time as a young person to say, hey, things are not really going right. I said that with the right words, with the best way, with the diplomatic way.
What about in Cameroon? Have you been able to meet with our own president?
I've had the opportunity to enjoy great support from him because to be JCI president, he endorsed my candidature. Number two, he gave me diplomatic passport.
You talk like a very honest somebody. When you met him, what did you tell him about some of the issues that you find around that are not pleasing?
No, I did not meet the president directly, but I met at that time the Secretary General, Minister of State, Roland. And we had this conversation. I met twice, and with all the state ministers, the Minister of Commerce that JCI is under, the Minister of Youth, and we have been honest to ourselves. If those who know, I would say what off camera, on camera, the biggest challenge of my country is that young people are
not
desperate.
given the opportunity.
They are so desperate. And if we don't do, and I've been saying this since 2006, when I was national president of JCI in Cameroon. You can read my production, intellectual production, my write-ups. You can go to my Facebook. It has not changed. So if we don't address sincerely the issues that young people are facing, I mean, we can just look around us. What is happening?
Let's now talk about Impact Talk.
Yes.
What is this all about?
It is a leadership, a 2 hours leadership training for middle management and professionals.
Is it going to be different from the usual motivational talks?
Different, completely different, because it's going to be in 2 stages. The first stage is the 2 hours training on specific topics, management, leadership, topics. Then now, when we finish the training, they go online to the platform and they do what we call some assessment. We assess them on how knowledgeable and the concept, because these are professional. It's going to be very, very professional in terms of, we try to see, okay, a concept on like competency. First, what are the new competencies, skills that you have developed? How are you going to apply them? You know, it's very concrete. Then at the end, we come out with a certificate. So we have part 1, which is essentially on presence. Then now, the next stage is that they go digital, because the future of many organizations and corporations is going to be digital. So
after the training, are you also going to empower these youths financially?
Yes. Look, the biggest challenge of these young people is not financial challenge. I have to be honest. It's more.
What is the challenge?
It's more on the mindset, the right mindset, and the right tools. And the tools, because if you want to
some of them would tell you that the ecosystem is not there. The environment is the conducive environment for them to operate, even after acquiring the knowledge, is not there.
Kingsley, then that will come back to the debate of citizenship, which is political. And I'm happy because the president, during his speech to the youth, said more and more young people should be involved in politics. I've been saying that things. You know, politics is not automatically having a political color. It's about citizenship. There's something bigger than politics for me, citizenship. So what you are trying to push on is citizenship. But let me be honest to you. You have 3 main actors in all modern society. You have the political leadership, or the government. You have the corporate world, and you have the civil society. Where I'm coming in this program is the corporate world. These young people, the educational system, you said it, do not train them to become entrepreneur. I'm saying this as an intellectual and as a board of trustees of the Cali University Institute of Boya. I know our educational system because I went to school here.
What are you suggesting?
It's not the educational.
What are you suggesting?
It's not the educational system of Cameroon that made me to become an entrepreneur. It made me to look for a job. And I graduated in 1993. So tell me what has changed. Now, what we are giving to them is the tools, leadership and entrepreneurship tools that university will not give, and that a university lecturer is not competent to give, because personally I've been an entrepreneur for 25 years. So when we talk about entrepreneurship, it's not about, we're saying off. It's not about paper. I don't know, the owner of your business.
PhD?
No, the owner of your business can come and give, because he knows what is investment is all about, how to recruit, how to pay taxes, is on testimony. And if he's blessed to have been a graduate, things become easy. But you don't even need. If you don't need to go to school to do that. That's why our programs are there now to help them, because they will come with 5 masters. No skills. We are talking here about skills. We're not talking here about the papers. So that's why, Kingsley, I said, don't take for granted that job. Because if you jump, I can call a young person, I give him 10 billion. If he's from this system, he will do nothing. I started my business with less than 1 million CFA. So I'm repeating again, it's not about money, but it doesn't mean that we don't need money. At the next level of entrepreneurship or small, medium-sized enterprise, they will tell you that they have issues of financing. We can be a next debate if you invite me. That's the next. But we are talking about young people that are graduating. You can't come to a seminar or and give them 10 million. Kingsley, I give you 1 month, the money. Not that they have even stolen it. They are even honest. Believe me, honest. But they will fail because you don't come from class 1 in primary school and go and write A level and pass. Do you do that in the educational system? But you want to do that in business? Business, you start. All businessmen, look around the world, humble beginning. They fail. They made error. Learning by doing. You grow in the process. You are smart. You know this is how we sell. You grow. Then you arrive to a stage where you have managed 1 million. Now you can even take a loan for 10 million. Not that you start with 10 million, with 100 million. I'm sorry, it will not work. It has not worked yesterday. It will not work today. And it will not work tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Roland Kwemain, for accepting to talk to us.
Thank you, Kingsley. It was an opportunity. And I hope that we'll have other opportunities to talk on other related issues on entrepreneurship, leadership, and you name all the shapes.